Hey, it's Buddy Bob on the go again on the Rock and Roll Travelogue. We're looking for the great artists of the 1950s through 90s, and we're on our way to Chicago today. But before arriving in the Windy City, we've got to make a stop in nearby Gary, Indiana. We're heading for 2300 Jackson Street. Now, this street was named after the 7th President of the United States, Andrew Jackson. Here were born 10 kids. They were born and then they lived here. And they would be part of one of the biggest pop acts of all time. They were Rebby, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, LaToya, Marlon, and his twin brother who died at birth, and Michael, born in 1958. Two more were born, including Randy and Janet. This is the home where all 10 kids lived, and the family members lived here from 1950 to 1969. You know, I find it interesting. The mother, Catherine, still owns this home. It's not occupied, and she's lived in California for many, many years. Some of the homes on this street are abandoned, others are in disrepair, but people are stopping here all the time to take pictures of the house where it started for Michael Jackson and his siblings. And this picture was taken in the rain, yet people were still out taking pictures. Well, it all started in 1964 for the kids and exploded in 1969 when they signed with Motown Records. Motown superstar Diana Ross then introduced the boys to the world at the Forum in Los Angeles. It's now the Kia Forum. Actually, it's in Inglewood, California, just outside of Los Angeles and near the LAX airport. The Jackson Five was composed of Michael, age 11, Jackie, Tito, Marlon, and Jermaine. And their first 4 songs all went to number 1 in order: I Want You Back, ABC, The Love You Save, and I'll Be There. Now, here's a picture in 1974 of me with the Jackson Five. Well, all but Michael, anyway. Michael went on to become the king of pop, and he was eulogized at his funeral in 2009 by the Motown founder, Berry Gordy Jr. Berry called him the greatest entertainer of all time. Not to be outdone, other Jacksons have had hits of their own. Perhaps Janet, the youngest, has been the most successful. We'll forget for just a moment about her so-called wardrobe malfunction at the 2004 Super Bowl. Perhaps Escapade in 1989 stands out as her best of 10 number 1 songs. Jermaine was the first to go solo, and his first number 1 was called Let's Get Serious, 1980. Incidentally, he and Whitney Houston were involved romantically. It's said that Whitney's Saving All My Love for You was for Jermaine. I should point out that we will explore more of Whitney Houston on another adventure of Rock and Roll Travelogue. That's when we go to New Jersey, and boy, did she come from a fabulous musical family. Anyway, back to the Jacksons. LaToya had the first gold record called Heart Don't Lie, 1984. So all in all, no family tops this family for success in the music industry. And it all started in Gary, Indiana. Well, let's get going. I just can't wait to get to Chicago, one of my favorite places to go. Our first stop is on the south side at 936 Ashland Avenue. This is the site of the Wells Academy, where Curtis Mayfield, Jerry Butler, and Ramsey Lewis, the jazz great, attended high school. Mayfield and Butler were good friends, having grown up together in public housing at the well-known Cabrini Green. They formed the Impressions together. In 1960, Jerry Butler left. He was known as the Iceman. He left to pursue his own solo career, and he had big hits on For Your Precious Love, He Will Break Your Heart, which incidentally was re-released in 1975 with a different title, same music, different title, called He Don't Love You by Tony Orlando and Dawn. But back to Jerry Butler. He had a big hit with the cover version of the Everly Brothers' Let It Be Me. He did that as a solo with Betty Everett in 1964. Well, Jerry eventually left the music industry, and get this, he became a county commissioner in Cook County, that's Chicago, from 1985 to 2018. Long tenure. Well, Curtis Mayfield was a huge talent, too. The Impressions scored with It's All Right, Keep on Pushing, And the socially conscious People Get Ready. These were in the mid-1960s, but who can forget Curtis Mayfield's Superfly in 1972? It was on his own record label, Curtom. Curtis was a prolific songwriter, produced for many Chicago artists, many of whom will visit on the Rock and Roll Travelogue. Another graduate of Wells Academy, as we mentioned, was Ramsey Lewis, the jazz great, had an instrumental hit in 1965 called The In Crowd. Well, I say it's time to get over to VJ Records at 1449 South Michigan Avenue. This was on what was once known as Record Row. It was a very famous street on the south side of Chicago. Well, VJ, the company, is gone, and the site today is a coffee shop. And I've got to hand it to the coffee shop owners because they preserved the history of VJ on the wall. Take a look right here. VJ was an early African-American-owned label. They had such greats as Jerry Butler, we talked about a moment ago, Gene Chandler, the Duke of Earl, Dee Clark with Raindrops, Betty Everett, the Shoop Shoop song. Yeah, you remember Cher did that about 30 years later. The Four Seasons were on VJ, Fontella Bass with Rescue Me. And there was a band you might have heard from England that was on VJ at the very beginning. The Beatles. Yeah, because Capitol Records, their eventual label, decided against issuing their early songs like Please Please Me, Do You Want to Know a Secret, Love Me Do, P.S. I Love You, and more. They decided they didn't want to release them at first, so VJ took over, and that was a boon to VJ Records. So they were very successful for a while, but they had to file bankruptcy in 1966. Well, you know, I mentioned VJ was on what was known as Record Row on South Michigan Avenue. Record companies dotted the street, up and down the street for blocks on this once famous street. And the most famous of these record companies was Chess and Checker Records at 2120 South Michigan. The building still stands. It's a museum today. Great early rock and blues artists like Muddy Waters, Bo Diddley, Chuck Berry. They were on this label. Etta James, too, John Lee Hooker, and, of course, Dale Hawkins with the original Susie Q in 1959, a dozen years before Creedence Clearwater Revival had a hit with the song. Now, we'll visit the homes of some of these great artists on a future rock and roll travelogue adventure. Chess Records at 2120 South Michigan Avenue was immortalized by the Rolling Stones' 2120 South Michigan. That was a song that was an instrumental that they recorded at this studio in 1964. Well, Chess Records was sold by 1969, and one of the founder's sons was a young man named Marshall Chess. He helped to found a very avant-garde rock band called Rotary Connection. You've never heard anybody with a sound like theirs. And the lead singer, who had an incredible vocal range, I mean multi-octave, was a receptionist at Chess Records. Her name was Minnie Riperton. And by 1975, she had a #1 solo hit with the song Lovin' You. That song, incidentally, was produced by Stevie Wonder. Sadly, Minnie Riperton died young of breast cancer, but her legacy lives on through her daughter, Maya Rudolph, the actress and comedian. Well, I say we recap the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame members that we've discussed today. Jerry Butler made it as a member of the Impressions, his friend Curtis Mayfield as well, but Curtis also inducted on his own as a solo artist. Other Rock and Roll Hall of Famers from our trip today, the Four Seasons, Muddy Waters, Chuck Berry, and Bo Diddley. And we'll visit the home of Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, Chuck Berry, and Bo Diddley later, from 3 different states, by the way. So I'm Buddy Bob. It's time to bounce. More Chicago adventures next time on the next edition of Rock and Roll Travelogue. In the meantime, remember, good heart and stout luck.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.